Hello and welcome to Sim.bc, where right now it's that bloody amazing 10 past 1 in the morning time. Yeah, we're actually finding a good space of time here where we can actually occupy. Yeah, even though if I'm recording in the middle of the night, I'm probably scheduling the upload for about 1 o'clock the same day. So not that it really matters for you guys, but to establish a bit of context of where I am in kind of my mind space, post-work, post-workout, post my entire bloody day, right? That's why it's important. I know, I'm just trying to justify it, in hindsight, because I'm doing it every single episode so far, but I kind of like it. It's tradition now, isn't it? Now, today is going to be a rather interesting video, not only for you listeners out there, and I know most of my topics and videos are extremely captivating and interesting, but for me as well today, because we're going to talk about something that struck me mind, in about, which was 1:45 during the day, that I was really passionate about, and I wrote it down. But before we're getting into that, I would just like to say that I have a cup of tea with me, a cup of green, yet again trying to push that entire idea of the environment. It's kind of important, so go green with green tea. I really hope that green tea doesn't have a huge negative impact on the environment, because I will just look like a right twat then, wouldn't I? Anyway, but I kind of boiled the water too hot, and we're not just talking, boiling water, because, boiling water ain't that big a deal. I'm talking about I kind of forgot about it, so it was all bubbly, all troubly. So I probably won't be drinking it right now. I probably need a good 20 minutes for it to cool off. And talking about other hot and steamy things, am I right? I'm taking an awful lot of showers these days. I'm not talking about those suspiciously long and timed showers that you did during your teenage years. You probably know that's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about the amount of showers that I take in a day right now, because we have the kind of get up in the morning shower, and then we have the workout shower, the post-workout. Probably some of you might do a pre-workout shower and skip the post. You shouldn't do that. At least consider doing a post-workout shower. And then you have the workout, actually going to work, your actual work, coming home and take a shower after that, because some physical activities are going on, and yeah, you kind of feel like you need to take a shower. So I'm taking, like, on average 3 a day with me workout shower in the middle there. It's crazy. Anyway, that's a lot, or rather, that's enough. It's a lot as well, but that's enough of pretext to what we're going to talk about, because that is probably nothing to bloody do with it. But you can probably find something to connect this with, especially if you have a problem with getting to the point. Because that's what we're going to talk about. Now, let's read off my notes that I was so passionate about for about more than 12 hours ago. So let me just say, recordings for episode 321. Right at you, mate. The idea that the thing you hate most about other people is the shortcomings of yourself that is reflected in others. I know, deep already. For instance, in my case, so me, talking about me, in my case, it's that I dislike not being flexible in an argumentation when it comes to changing sides, because then the reason for the argumentation to begin with is rather pointless. If no one can change the side, that is. If you have two definitive sides where no one will acknowledge the other one's, it's kind of pointless, because that's the entire idea behind it. So, where am I? Change the side if you have two definitive sides. Pointless. Something I am very good at, in not being flexible, but initially hold a strong point no matter if it's right or wrong. Something I'm working on, though. Yeah, I'm trying to work in order to prevent that, because I know that's a horrible shortcoming to have. But due to this, I'm working on it, and I recognize it in other people. So that's kind of going full circle already. If you have a problem with getting to the point, then maybe you could criticize me in the way that I was introducing this entire video. I know, it looks like I had a plan, I didn't. Raw footage, am I right? So, the entire point that I was trying to convey today when I was walking to the gym, because, that's where most of my brilliant ideas come from. I should say, brilliant ideas come from. In that kind of pre-moment when I'm like, I'm gonna work out, and then my brain is like, then now I'm gonna I'm gonna work out too and come up with all of these things, and I'm like, yeah, bro, my brain, you're a bro, you're coming up with all these things. And then now in the evening I'm reading it, and I'm like, Did you really though give me anything useful here? Okay, but I think that the important thing here is that self-critique, yeah, self-reflection in a way, if you will, that most of the things that I tend to see other people being very irritated at, so let's say, so if we say my mate John, let's just say I have a mate named John, it's completely fictional. You know what, let's go with Gary, because Gary's a good old dude, a good old mate to the channel. So I have Gary, right, and I can observe him being kind of, you know, cross-eyed, kind of fierce with someone else. He's getting kind of irritated at some of our other mates. And usually, I can pinpoint exactly what he's irritated at is originating from himself. Because let's say that Gary is being like, oh, it's bloody awful that people can't come on time when I'm bloody on time, and I'm like, well, that's probably because you, Mr. Gary, are rarely on time, so you probably feel like the time that you were actually here in time, other people should be justified to be here in time as well, because you're always bloody late. That's probably one of the most common things to hear people argue about and hear people kind of complain about, right? It's about not getting in time, you know, not being in time to a meeting, cutting a meeting short in order to get in time. That's kind of my perception of how you do it, right? Because it's better to say in the end of the meeting, hi, cutting it a bit short, I'm sorry, need to get to another meeting, and being on time on the other meeting, instead of being like, yeah, I can sit on a 5 minutes and be 5 minutes late, and then be 10 minutes late to the next one, and then 15, and then 20, 30, 35, have to skip the last one, you know, kind of what I'm saying. Anyway, we're not specifically talking about not being able to meet times, even though that's an irritation in and within itself that I think that most of us can agree is horrible, absolutely bloody horrible. But most of my mates, yet again, my circle of friends, because I can only decipher from context and historical accuracy of my own life, yeah? Context established, it's important, more than shock value, so to say, of the title or of the topic. But most people that I interact with tend to criticize people based on things that I see them doing badly, or things that they have been commented on themselves doing badly. Now, there are two things that I think about when I see this, right? The first one is, I have recognized a problem with myself, and therefore I'm trying to help you by telling you that you have a problem so that you can stop doing it. Or people are telling me all the time that I have a problem, and therefore I'm just, you know, the shit falls downwards. I'm just telling the bloody next person that they have a problem with the same thing, even though I might not recognize it, even though I have it or I don't. Which is also kind of an interesting thing, this entire idea of wheels and stages, and that if someone screams at someone, kind of the cycle of screams. I think they go through it in How I Met Your Mother, that if the boss screams at you, then you scream at someone, and that someone screams at another one, and so on and so forth, yada yada yada, until someone screams back to your boss, and your boss is going to scream at you. Kind of that same idea, but instead of screaming, they're saying, you have a problem with this, mate. That person is going, well, oh, thank you. And then they go to the next person being like, you have a problem with this, mate. And then the next person is going, you have a problem with this, mate, until it goes around again. That's probably a reason for why some people criticize others based on some behavior that some people might say are like, you know, not really tangible, physical, and there in someone's personality, right? Could happen. I've seen that happen too, or I would argue that I've seen that happen. But more likely is that I am working on something that I feel is my character flaw, let's say, my personal flaw. For instance, the thing that I took up, I am very good at not being flexible in a discussion. Have been ever since, you know, I've been a besserwisser since I was, you know, since I was like 5. I knew how the world was working. Probably also a reason for why I'm doing a YouTube channel talking about my opinions about certain topics, as if I was entitled to have, you know, an opinion that's more worth than anybody else's. Yeah, it's kind of arrogant when you think about it like that, but it's something that has been carrying through with me all of my life, and I've been constantly told about this flaw, that I'm a bit of a besserwisser, that I'm thinking that I'm better than others. Not that I think that in the moment, right? I'm just thinking that I'm having a superb argument going on, a superb discussion, and people are like, you come across as a bit arrogant, and I'm like, do I? And that's also a problem. I don't even recognize it at times, and I think that most people have the same problem. However, since I do have been told this many years, and probably will be told this many years to come, unfortunately, you can't just change overnight, even though I would like to, right? this is something that I'm constantly working on, something that I'm continuously trying to improve. Sometimes I even get into an argumentation on the wrong side intentionally, just so that I can change sides during the course of the conversation. And people are like, you're a bloody idiot. Why would you think that 2 + 2 is 5? And I'm like, because of this, X, Y, and Z. And people are like, no. And then after a while, since I intentionally went in on the wrong side, I can be like, oh, but you're right, it's 4. And then I can kind of, even though I engineered the entire situation, the entire argument, and the entire discussion, I can poke myself on that side. Now, this is more about me. I realized that became more about me dealing with one of my flaws and not really connected to the topic, which is that you see flaws in others. But since I'm so, involved with trying to solve this and coming up with new ideas and new ways of trying to approach my own problem, right? In order to succeed and diminish it as much as I can, if not completely just take it away and be a rational person for the rest of my bloody life, which is more of a semi-dream than anything, right? And it's probably a curse in and within itself if it does go through. But since I'm working with it from different angles, I tend to see people doing the exact same thing that I do and not doing it properly. Yeah? And that is that, let me just clarify what I mean with that. So, for instance, sometimes I see 2 people be arguing about something. It's usually politics, politicians. I'm not saying it's always, but it's usually politicians, religious people. What can we drag in more? Any form of ideology that is not really based in any concurrent proof. Yeah, that's my point on the 2 philosophies there. Probably summarize me as a person quite a lot. But I tend to see the 2 people, let's say politicians to make it less uncomfortable for most of people. But we see 2 politicians. One is the right and one is the left, just to make it superbly easy. Could be in the right, could be in the left. 2 people arguing against each other as well. But let's just say it's one distinctly from the right, one distinctly from the left. Not distinctly enough that they're on the 2 opposite sides of each other, because I believe the political spectrum is more of a circle and them coming together again, because if they're so far off, they're probably going to dictatorships in different ways. Anyway, let's say that they're away enough so that it's an argumentation, but not so far away that they're becoming full circle and become the same thing through different means, but basically achieving the same political status. Yeah, that was a long discussion and pretext for what I'm trying to get at. We have 2 people arguing for one thing, arguing about the one thing. And I've been saying this before. My usual way of going about discussing politics is that there is one right, one left discussing about why they like the color blue. And one of them is saying, right, I like the color blue because it's like the sky. And the other one is saying, like, I like the sky because it's like blue. And the other one is like, you're wrong. And I'm like, what? You're saying the exact same thing, but you're intentionally, probably intentionally, hopefully intentionally, if it's not intentionally, I'm worried about the future of all of politics everywhere. People are going against each other just because there are 2 different political parties. And this blows my mind that it's a thing. Anyway, so I kind of recognize that problem, that someone, even though they probably recognize themselves that it is wrong in the moment, they can't really change a side. And in politics, it can be because they're not really representing themselves, they're representing the party's views on the subject and the people who have voted for them. So they do not have that much freedom to actually change anything. Sure, I can get behind that to some degree, even though I feel like it's kind of inefficient and quite inefficient. I can still get behind the idea why you don't change your mind. Now, let's take it a step further and let's put it into working conditions. Yeah, the working culture, where we have 2 people of 2 different political or religious beliefs in the workplace. So they only speak for themselves. They don't have any reason for speaking for anyone else. So let's just say they represent each other and their point of view on politics or on the same subject. Now, this is what really bugs me, because I can be seeing people doing the exact same bloody argument and not getting to an arrangement, even though it's 2 individuals speaking for themselves, which makes me feel, as the audience, as the partaker of this entire little exercise, like, you 2 people are quite thick and bloody twats, both of you, because you're dragging down everybody around you when you're having an argument, that it's about this. It's like, let's just say there are two people who like the same thing, but they argue against each other. So both are in the wrong simultaneously as they're in the right. I know this is kind of a weird example, but for my own personal flaws, let's say quote-unquote flaw, but it is flaw, arguing against the same thing. But the entire idea is that they don't want to give up their position, which is kind of my flaw as well. I don't want to sometimes. I truly do believe that right as of now, if I was presented with evidence for that I'm wrong, I would change the side after, 22 years of working with this, basically, right? But yet there's so many people who don't even seem like they've given it any thought. And that leads me to believe that I'm criticizing them based on that I know that I have a problem with it myself. Because other people have told me so, and I've recognized it at times as well. Which is really awkward, by the way. That's probably the most awkward thing you can do. Realizing one of your flaws in the moment when you're exercising that flaw and being like, this is really stupid. Now, if you're like me, you probably hold on to that point anyway, because that's the flaw, right? But other people might be a bit more flexible and change with the context, let's say, with the pretext. Anyway, what I'm trying to get at is that most people tend to criticize others based on the shortcomings of themselves. Now, I'm not going to go any further in depth with this, even though you can argue to some degree that bullying, it's an idea of bullying, why bullying occurs, why some bullying occurs, I might add, that some people are afraid or recognized in other people or jealous of other people, and that's why they bully a specific person. And sometimes they bully a person because they see the flaws of themselves in others, and that constantly reminds them of themselves without them actually knowing that, because they haven't really gone on a soul search for what their character flaw, or so to say their personal flaw, actually was. I know, it's interesting stuff now, isn't it? Yeah. We're gonna cut it short there. So what I would like you to bring with you in the future, from this video, if there's anything, it is that if you're criticizing someone, think about it for a while. Are you critiquing them because they're doing something that's obviously stupid, wrong, bad in every way, shape, or form, and that's just bad? Or are you criticizing them based on something that you're yourself reminded of in yourself? And if you are, instead of just critiquing them, try to relax the situation and offer your help on how you are dealing with your problem. If they are able, or what you would say, not able, that's the wrong word, because that would, if they agree to work on that flaw with you. I think that's a better solution, and that will bring more joy to the entire world if everybody does this. Right? In theory, right? Yeah? No? Yeah? Yes. Have a nice one, mates. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.